and unscramble this IOCCC prize in yil-tas. And I gotta tell you, when I typed this word in to my editor, it put up a red squiggly line so fast I think I offended the machine. So I don't even know what you're trying to say here.
Well, this is an international contest.
Yes? Yeah.
And so we get lots of languages, including C. And we've had other programming languages as well masquerading as C, and C masquerades as other programming languages. So it's not unusual to have a word which is not in the dictionary's vocabulary. By the way, again, I'll remind you, if you're winning, if your submission wins, let people know in the chat that your things won so they congratulate you and such. So, but let's see who won this prize in, I think it's pronounced yil-tas.
Yil-tas.
And the IOCCC prize in yil-tas goes to Cody Ferguson from the United States.
So well done, Cody. Cody, this is Cody's fourth International IOCCC contest win. Cody had 2 impressive submissions for 2020, and he continues with this new piece of code, which I would say that the C contest is very honored to have this piece of code. You'll see why. See what I said? That was a pun. C pun. We have lots of C puns here. But let's see how you compile Cody's code. Now, you'll see in here that whoops, I'm trying to get this back here. I've lost the ability to, oh, okay, I see what's happened. I no longer see it's not rendering properly, but you'll see up here, this data dict, that gives you a clue that you define this dictionary thing. Otherwise, it's a straightforward compilation.
Okie doke.
And here you see this code flying by. It has an IOCCC I there. It's got some interesting pieces of code that are showing up, and rendering. You can see some very interesting use of white space in this piece of code. That's part because of the way the rules work. There's a rule 2A which says it has to be under 4,993 bytes, but we have a tool that counts essentially. Think of it as counts source code, but ignores white space and curly braces and semicolons, and that number has to be 2,503 or less. So people make use of exploiting that rule by putting in white space. When you look at this in the Clang format, one of the things you begin to see is this sort of looks like a translation dictionary. And I will point out to the producer, it's no longer showing the things on the line. I'm drawing lines, but it's not showing me lines there. So trust down there.
I'm guessing you just need to refresh again a couple times.
Let me try to do a refresh and try to refresh again. Like I said, so do I see? Nope. Nope. Okay. Well, you'll see down there that, oh, there it is. Okay. It just refreshes enough time. You have to be patient. All right. So you see how you have this alphabet table. And if we look at the next thing here, we see again more functions. It's doing some stuff with regards to case of characters with some interesting translation. We see also another alphabet lookup table things relating to the case of alphabetic characters, looking for alphabetic characters to process. And then here, we also see there's a function which is obviously opening up the dictionary. There's the thing for defining and processing this dictionary. So as a data dictionary that loads in. And on top of that, then we say, well, what going on? Then finally, you finally end up with a main function down here. So you have a bunch of functions, obviously dealing with the dictionary, dealing with case encoding, lookup table. And what does this accomplish? Well, if you run the try script, I try this. There we go.
Oh, it's going.
And so you translate test, it gets this value. If you give that value, you get test. You type in bear, it gives you these words, and those words goes backwards. Commanding officer gets encoded and decoded this way. Cat. Here's code. Code gets translated to yil-tas, and yil-tas back to code. Sending code does this. You see the cases there, or code received. You see the case for there. International Obfuscated Sequence Contest is able to encode that properly. If you have the letters of the alphabet, it encodes it that way, which decoded back. And enough, if you give the source code to itself, so it's encoding itself, and you get output, which when you decode is almost the same, except there's a new line difference, and a challenge is put out to people to figure out why the difference when it decodes itself. You have a new line, which is, can you explain that? That's a question. But what's going on here is this is essentially the fundamental algorithm that the Navajo Code Talkers used in the Pacific Theater in World War II. These were gentlemen of high honor and high distinction that operated in the Pacific Theater. And they used their language as a means to send messages over the areas that were extraordinarily difficult for people to understand. At the time that the Code Talkers did their thing, because outside of the Navajo Nation, there were estimated only 30 people who were fluent in Navajo outside of the Navajo itself. Even other indigenous people in that area could kind of know what they're saying, but not quite. The Navajo language is an extraordinary language. It has full of various cases and subtleties. It's just knowing, because I'm sure I'm not pronouncing yil-tas properly. I apologize. The inflection and the nuances in there that they have is an extraordinarily rich language. And listening to Navajo, if you have no idea what's going on, it's even hard for you to figure out what's a word or let alone what is being said. As a number of the commanding officers in the theater would say, that places, battles like Iwo Jima or Midway would not have been won if it were not for the Code Talkers doing the stuff. Their accuracy was extraordinary. Again, it was a verbal cipher. Other thing that the Code Talkers did was they did lots of chatter, not just high valued military secrets, but they also would sometimes transmit some GI's love letter back home. So the fact that you heard a Code Talker wasn't necessarily that something was up, because they had kept chatting. So they were very, very active in their theater. I had an honor to talk to a gentleman here, a Code Talker, while he was still alive, and he had some extraordinary stories to talk about of their moments for what they had to put up with in this theater. They were there right on the front line. The enemies in the Pacific Theater sort of were trying to figure out what are these sounds, and someone got the idea that it probably is some Native American, Indigenous American, North American language. They did capture some people that had, that were also indigenous, but they had some light familiar with Navajo, but they said they're just talking garbage. They're just, it doesn't make sense. And I don't understand it. It was, the cipher was only declassified, I think, about 1969. And it remains the only spoken cipher that was never broken in operation, right? And it's only after 9, and then later on they were given. So it was kept highly classified, and later on they were probably unfortunately too late for a number of them, given very high levels of honor. So we're really pleased that this the C contest is able to give you the Bates algorithm. By the way, this is the Bates algorithm. Pairs of code talkers that kind of knew each other would develop things on top of the base cipher. So as this gentleman told me, he said, rather than saying, he said, like, for example, umbrella, which I would have to spell out, be long, I would say to my counterpart, I don't want to get wet. And the person says, well, how are you not going to avoid getting wet? And it says, well, I'm using something. Is that something you put on, something you go under, or something you hold in your hand? And the guy says, hold in your hand. They're saying this in Navajo, by the way. And so he says, okay, he wants to say umbrella. So now when he says, I don't want to get wet, I know he says umbrella. So they added on top of the cipher these other personal things that they would do in order to establish rapport. Again, very high honored gentleman. And we're really pleased, Cody, to have this as a winning IOCCC entry.
Thanks for watching. And before you go, please like and subscribe and check out the social media links in the description below. And if you like, you can support us on Patreon to help us bring you new content so you may enjoy our favorite universe even more.